I think we're on. Good afternoon for our morning matcha. Look at the green color of my matcha latte. What I did, I usually mix the culinary grade with the ceremonial grade. So I don't use up all my ceremonial grade because everyone says that you don't really taste the difference. So I thought I'd just kind of give it a go, and I put two heaping quarter teaspoons of the ceremonial grade in and the spring harvest as well. So like the top, just to see if it makes a difference. Well, it definitely makes a difference in the color. Oh my gosh. And it does. I think it doesn't make a difference if you made it really weak the way Starbucks does it, or probably any place that you get it from, pre-made. But if you're gonna put a lot in, for sure, it makes a difference. Oh my gosh, that's good. I'm keeping it on my lap. So you guys probably notice it's only me here today. My wife headed out early this morning. I think I got woken up at about 6. And she was heading to Toronto, to Queen's Park, to take part in the protest to protest about our freedom being taken away, and our freedom of speech, censorship, a whole bunch of things, all really are kind of from the same core, but all manifest in different ways. And I'm really, really proud of her. She's down there with Guy Crittenden and some other friends. Both of them are very brave. I call them my spiritual frontline workers. And just really, really cool. I looked it up on, just to see if there was any coverage on it, on just Googling. And all I saw was Doug Ford calling them a bunch of yahoos or something. And I can't remember what else, but I said on my Facebook post that no one wants to know what I referred to Doug Ford as, or his long gone brother. But yeah, they're out there. Raven got all the way down there, and she called me up and she said, in kind of a panic, she was parking her car, and she said, I have to pee, and there's no bathrooms anywhere, nothing open. And it dawned on me right away, and I guess it just dawned on her, there pretty well are no public bathrooms available. So I'm sure she figured something out. Out here, it's pretty simple. She can just kind of crouch down somewhere, wherever she is. But I just don't think that would be smiled upon in Toronto downtown. Although other countries do it, so who knows? Be something. I've been going crazy this morning, getting my doors ready, my church doors, for my major art project and healing project, which I have posted a few times. And today was, it wasn't unfun, but it was not the most exciting part of it. It was taking all the hardware off, all the hinges, all the locks and handles and I don't know what you call them, braces, I guess. And it was kind of difficult because they're really old, and old screws, and they all kind of bent and stripped and things. So it actually took quite a long time. So now I've got the doors down more or less to the bare wood, and now I have to wait until I can get some paint remover. And thanks, Ilana. Ilana reminded me to wear a good mask, and I for sure will. I have a selection of masks, each with different kinds of filters in them. One for mold, one for just wood dust, one for things, all different range. One actually for CV, which is it's not for CV, but it's on the level that can, which I just got for doing my bone carvings. So yeah, I've got a whole range of masks, ventilators, and I will be using the appropriate one while I'm doing that work. And on top of that, I'll be doing it outdoors as well on a nice sunny day. So rest assured, I will be as safe as possible, and I'll wear gloves as well. Well, also the paint stripper melt your hands if you touch it pretty well. So that is that. I'm pretty excited about it. I've been thinking for a while that I don't think I'm going to get away with just doing the doors, because I really need a really nice wood frame to carve that the doors work with or fit with onto the opening as a true threshold. So that's something I've got to kind of work on as well in my mind, and eventually find a really good place to get some really nice wood to build the frame in that I can then carve. I'll have to see what I might. Well, I'll see how expensive it is, but I wouldn't mind doing it out of oak or something. It would just be nice, something different. Also, it's the carving aspect as well, the beauty of the wood, but also how the wood carves. So there's a few different woods that are known to be quite good for carving. I definitely don't want to do it out of pine or something like that. So we'll see. Something that's sturdy and carves well and looks really good. I'll do a bit of research and I'll call around, and I'll probably during the time that I'm working on the doors, I'll be building the frame and then drawing the carvings for that. And it's kind of interesting because hang on, have a sip. Because the Viking stave church doors that I'm just taking an influence from, there would be the curve that fits my church doors and comes down, and then according to this, and I really like the look, it's got these two pillar pieces that come down. They're about, I don't know, maybe this wide, this big in diameter, and they have all the carvings around the whole thing. So I'm really inventing a lot more work for myself, but it looks so damn good. And what I really want is something when they're set up, not on a wall. I'm hoping to be able to do that and have it in a show somewhere, just so people can come and see it. Although I'm not telling you where they're going to turn up yet, but they will be in a place where they can be seen, in a beautiful place. But I want them to be so powerful that when you walk through those doors, you feel kind of a shiver or a shimmer, even. Like a real shift in your state of mind and your consciousness. I've been in love with the idea of doors and doorways and portals and temenosks and sacred buildings and pathways, secret gardens, and they sort of all have merged into a swirl for me as a child. Enchanted forests, all this kind of thing. Elves and fairies and unicorns when I was really young. And it's not like I don't know how I looked at it back then, but I now find it actually maybe even more powerful, these quote unquote metaphors, archetypes, and so on. I find that these symbols and stories that we've been told about magic and make-believe, a lot of them have profound meaning if you're willing to look at it from kind of a Jungian and other variety of perspectives as ways of describing in stories that which is indescribable, is kind of how I look at it and how I've, over the years, kind of considered the whole idea. Usually Raven talks while I sip, and I talk while Raven sips, but sometimes I use the word magic because it still conjures up an aspect, and I don't mean magic like sprinkling fairy dust or anything, but a shift in a conscious state of mind or a trance or I guess you could say an illusion in some cases. that which has one locked, or many locked, especially many, locked into a certain paradigm, and the idea that the paradigm or the way of perceiving, actually just snapping back to a therapist and hypnotherapist as well that I went to a long time ago. What was his name? Adam Crabtree, and I think he wrote a book. It's called The Something Zone. Anyway, his take on things was that people kind of get clicked into these zones or trances, and there's a certain kind of work, in his case the hypnotherapy, to kind of undo that trance, or that spell, actually. In a way, you could look at it like a spell, a large spell or a group spell, and these spells can last for centuries in that sense, if you understand what I'm talking about. And I think in essence, these spells can also be broken in moments. In essence, doesn't mean it's that easy. And my pumpkin project from way back in the fall, Halloween time, started this whole process for me that then went into the polar bear medicine project, and now into the portal project, which is also I'll refer to as a form of medicine. And that all coming from, as you guys already know that have followed me, from the idea of art as healing, art as therapy, art as one powerful way to shift people's locks within themselves, that they have either placed, their subconscious have placed, others have placed, situations have placed, trauma has placed. There's many ways. Probably all could be boiled down to sort of a trauma, all of them. But anyway, that's a whole area I could go into. But this is kind of the mullings over that I have gone through over the years, and especially in the last while. And last fall, when I got into the pumpkin project, I did all my research on the jack-o'-lantern, and I find a lot of these events in time, like carving pumpkins that people keep up, holiday type rituals, have been overlaid in more recent times, or even multiple overlaid. You can imagine layers of wallpaper or linoleum in an old house that you're taking out. It's that same kind of thing, each period of time there's a new overlay and a new interpretation, and someone has just laid that on top. And many people never ever question what came before, or why it got shifted to this, and how that had an effect, and so on. But when I did the pumpkin project, that was pretty powerful, because I did a lot of research, and I found that there were many overlays. And originally, the carving of the pumpkin, and there's a few facets that I kind of tied together. The carving of the pumpkin conjured an energy in general, which is with anything like that. I mean, walking in a circle, walking a labyrinth, saying a prayer, they create an energy. So with art, with creativity, there's another level to this that I've definitely found through my own experiences, other people's experiences, and research. And so anyways, going back to this pumpkin idea, there have been these overlays of Jack, hence the jack-o'-lantern. And Jack this is a real shortened version, but Jack was a fucked up, screwed up person, and he made deals with the devil and deals with God, and basically he got kicked out of everywhere. So when he died, there's nowhere he could go, so he was a lost soul, and he had his lantern to try and see his way, and people would carve these jack-o'-lanterns to keep this scary lost soul from haunting them. And I thought, it's not a lot of depth to that, really. Which, when there's not a lot of depth, or there's a heavy amount of judgment on something, or there's certain things that bring clues that make me interested in something overall, and this one for sure. So it's like, well, why is this kept on through centuries, this kind of celebration or ceremony or ritual, or event and slightly changed over time. So you go back through it, it kind of links in with Guy Fawkes Day and the whole trick or treat thing. Like there were many layers and many different ways these things had been dealt with. But what I got to in all my research was, in essence, that there's something very, very powerful about carving this pumpkin that's been done over time. And many cultures have done something very, very similar, sometimes with a gourd, some kind of squash type of thing. Sometimes they've been dried out. I think even in Maori cultures, there were certain things like this, and have similar parallel energy raising potentials and energy shifting potentials. So I got really, really enthused by all this. And I then came across a bit of information on bonfires, and it wasn't bon as some people might think, well, bonfire, maybe good fire, like French, but it was actually bonfire, and bones were burned at a certain time of year, kind of a Thanksgiving type of thing. And I thought that was really cool, so I had put a candle in the middle, and I got an old bone from the field the dogs had chewed and cleaned out a long time ago, and I melted wax into the center hollow and made a candle out of it, and that was in the middle of my quote-unquote jack-o'-lantern transformational pumpkin healing project. And it was quite powerful. Like the process itself, me doing it, it was very transformational. A lot of things came up for me, which I'm always paying attention to, especially now when I'm doing these projects, a healing project. What comes up for me while I'm working on it, and at what stage sometimes different things will come up. Because I know this happens when I'm tattooing people quite often. Something they're going through, I'll pick up on it, and it's almost as if I'm going through it. But is it almost as if I'm going through it, or am I going through it and their process is pulling it up for me? Because I really do believe that we're not completely separate, and there are parallels and things that come up for everyone, or at least are pulled up. In this case, where you're really close to someone working in their field. And quite often when people would come to me for a certain symbol, like a dragon or whatever, there would be parallels and coincidences, if you want to call it that, where maybe 6 people within a month would come in for dragons, and then I wouldn't have any requests for dragons for maybe 2 years or something. Like really interesting patterns. I haven't got them on a map or anything or a chart that shows more than that, except that I just noticed these patterns that come up. So anyways, back to my door project. The sacredness of certain doors for sure have fascinated me for forever. And those church doors I bought at the door store in Toronto when it existed. And that was way over 20 years ago when I was living there. And I had got them at a deal. I think they were $3,000 at the time, because someone else had put a deposit on them, and then it didn't fit their whatever they were building, and it couldn't go in, so they just left it. But they didn't get the deposit back, so they were selling them really cheap. And they're like, take them for $3,000, and that's it. And I'm like, wow. And I took them, and Raven was like, what are you doing? Why? Like, what are we going to do with these doors? And I said, I don't even know what I'm going to do with them yet, but maybe we can build them into our place in Fergus. And of course, that didn't happen. And then we moved here, and maybe build them into this, and that didn't happen. And it was good. And this is kind of interesting too, because it brings up this idea that happens with me often, where I'm not even sure why I'm holding on to something and carrying it around with me. But later I find out, in this case, reality kind of does things, and I end up buying a bunch of tools and get back into carving that I had tinkered around with when I was a teenager. But really getting seriously into it, and it's really fulfilling something in me. So I'm enough where I feel like I just want to immerse myself in a multitude of different art creative projects, and all of them from tattooing to carving to painting and other things, or combining elements of things. and at whim. Like whenever I'm in the mood for a certain thing, which makes sense if you're if you're really into something, then why not, if you can, be doing that thing, especially if you're an artist. So it's something I'm working towards. Um, and why the Viking influence, I don't know how Viking it will be, but there's something about the detail on some of the Viking stave church doors from the past that really fascinated me. So I'm definitely gonna choose an influence of that. Where it'll go, I really, really don't know. It's gonna come together, and I don't even know if I'm gonna do little sketches ahead of time. I want to draw directly on the doors and actually troubleshoot it as I go. Whether that will work and whether I have to stop and draw a few sketches small first just to figure things out, I'll kind of just wing it as I go. But I am very, very excited about the process, and I'm really excited, especially now in the world, the situation. I feel like, you know, everyone's saying it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. Some people say it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and worse, each person has a different idea of what worse means, but most people, people are talking more about the effects of what's going on other than the virus itself. That aside, everything else that's going on and the damage that certain things are being done. But as an artist, I'm staying out of that. It's not necessary for me to do my creative work and healing work. In fact, I feel that as an artist, I need to stay neutral in this project because healing is healing. It will manifest regardless of what anyone's beliefs are, or my beliefs is how I see it. And what I'm holding space for in this concept of healing is on every level. It's healing at a core which manifests as it works its way out. So whether it affects someone in their health, whether it affects clearing the confusion, whether it shifts our perspective and we start to see and perceive reality or certain perceptions in a different way, whatever it is, this is the intent, is to shift and unlock whatever is holding us in this static place at the moment. It feels like it's just like things aren't moving and almost like when a swamp, when the water isn't moving, there's a festering quality and it's not healthy for the water. So this healing aspect is also to push that stagnant energy into a flow again. And once you get flow, you get health and circulation and movement. So what I'm pointing out is, regardless of anyone's beliefs and anyone's sort of what they resonate with or attach to or polarize or observe and view and believe, this is completely apart from that. This works on a level that is beyond what is manifest. It works on a level before manifestation of anything. Some call it the field of all potentialities. That's one name. Buddhists have other names for it as well. Like every culture has some name usually for it, but it's that before it has manifest. I think homeopathy kind of works on that principle as well, and a lot of holistic medicine and Chinese medicine as well. And yes, I do very strongly believe in this concept. It's not magic in the childhood sense, although I think quite often children that believe in magic, that goes beyond the ability to define, because a child, when they believe in something, things happen. So they don't even need to understand. And I guess in a way, we don't really need to understand either. And I think in some ways, this healing is also necessary to be putting us back in touch with that child element within ourselves, and I think that's also why a lot of people have been finding through all this stress that quite often it helps to say jokes about things, even though it might make someone else upset or irritated. It's sometimes important to just laugh, and let go of the tension and things. So that's also an aspect of healing. But this project is not balanced upon specific outcomes or interpretations or beliefs of what healing is. This is preceding the concept even of healing in that sense. So I am very, very excited, and I hope you guys as well will enjoy this process as it unfolds. And when I have them eventually created, I invite people to even come down once they're together enough that people can step through them. Although it's not necessary, they're not designed so it's necessary to walk through them, although that would add another level and dimension to it. Watching them being done pulls you into that part of the process as well, although in essence, even not knowing I'm doing it, it should still be having an effect. So we'll see. We'll let it unfold. I'll learn as I go. You guys will learn as you go. If you're right on board with this, all the better. If you have resistances to this idea and you just like the art, that's great too. I only just suggest that you suspend all judgment and beliefs. Memory came up to me on this topic of a wonderful, wonderful lady came as a client to me, and she had breast cancer scar from mastectomy, and you could say she was a scientist. She was a surgeon actually, and she said to me, she said, I know all about your approach to tattooing and the healing aspect, and she says, and that's all awesome, that's well and good, all the power to anyone that works for. She says, but I'm a scientist. She said, that's not why I came here. I came here for the art and me redefining my body. It was really important to her on that level. And so we proceeded, and then it was somewhere in the middle. She was here for multiple days, and one of the mornings she came downstairs and said, I had a nightmare. And she described her nightmare, and she said there was this hole in her dream where this black smoke was coming out. And this hole was a place where there was pain during many surgeries that she had. And I said, well, was the smoke coming or going? She said it was leaving, and it was as if it had a consciousness or something, and it was really negative. And I said, well, if it was leaving, that doesn't sound like a nightmare in that sense. It sounds really positive. If it was coming back into you, it might be another story. And that definitely had her think more about it, and there was definitely more processing to do. And she later gave me a testimonial of how she was not expecting this at all. My wind on the door is clanging there. Sorry about that if you hear it. So she was, it turned her everything completely around, and I think that is also part of the healing that she went through. So I'm saying this because I'm just suggesting that if you're just following this for the art and the enjoyment of that, and it's great, but if you can, try exercising, not holding on to a belief system, just allowing. Just let whatever happens happen, and just observe. Just see over time, see what happens, because that's all that's necessary really to allow something to happen, if it's to happen at all. And sometimes you feel something right away, sometimes you might feel something 10 years from now, or you'll observe things happening around us. So I've been putting a lot of work, crazy focus on everything from the pumpkin project to the polar bear project to now the door. I have other projects planned that are, I think they're getting bigger and bigger. And they're all kind of like those little Polish dolls that fit inside each other. They're all kind of building upon the previous one to build that energy. So those are my thoughts on my door project and everything else that I've been working on. As I mentioned, the polar bear skull it's not on hold completely. It's just been put on hold because I want to start these doors, and then I'll be working on that in the peripheral. But what's happened is I have some pink tourmaline that's really, really important symbolically and visually to be worked into the skull. And I guess I left it too long. I thought I didn't know about all this stuff that was going to happen and everything being closed. And the long story short, I couldn't get the pink tourmaline from where I thought I would be able to get it that wasn't far from here. And of course they're closed. And I ordered some from India, of all places, and it was going to take a while anyways, but now it's even longer. So Polar Bear project will be worked on here and there, but generally speaking, it's on hold, and it's the door project full on. Things that are going on right now, I feel like things are just about to, like that, like it's almost like someone's being pushed, like Winnie the Pooh, being pushed through that hole that he's stuck in, and then it's like finally it just goes, and he gets released. And I feel like that's the energy that we're sitting in right now. Is there's a kind of a stagnancy, but with a potential. I remember doing that in physics when we were in public school, potential and kinetic energy, and doing it with elastic band. And, you stretch the band and it had all this potential. So I feel like we've gone from the kinetic elastic band where it's just sitting there to now this potential, and it's just a matter of maybe aiming it. I don't know exactly the right metaphor, but and then letting go. So it's not, now there's not as much effort. It's more that, the butterfly that flaps its wings and how it affects something on the other side of the world. That morphogenetic field resonance that Rupert Sheldrake spoke about and speaks about. It's now going into those subtleties that aren't visible and aren't pre-manifestation, and on a level where you could only, I don't know any other words other than energy. It's not a mechanical process, let's say, and I don't think it even involves thinking. I think it's more of a feeling, if anything. So in that case, I would say it involves more of the heart and gut as organs of perception rather than the brain active stuff. So that's pretty well all I have to say. Till maybe tomorrow. We'll see what I'll be working on. For now, I'm going to go and take the dogs for a walk. It was sunny all day and it's gone a little bit hazy, so I want to give them a good walk before there's any chance of... it didn't say it was going to rain, but you never know. So I don't want to lose that opportunity. And I don't want to bore you guys by talking too much. So hopefully you're enjoying this and all of these posts that we've been doing on the Morning Matcha. We've been enjoying it very much, and we're going to try and keep it up. It's just like something to keep up. It's a really good sort of training thing for us as well, just kind of loosening up and getting used to speaking about projects that we're working on and things. Everything is starting to become extremely exciting. Lots of cool stuff just around the corner. Encourage people to stay in their center and trust in something deeper than the kind of external mayhem that seems to be going around with all the mixed and messed up information and things. There has been a lot of censorship going on, and I mean censorship not as in the case of cutting off someone who's posted stupid, weird shit that doesn't make any sense and it's creating fear. You'd almost want some of that to be gone, although how do you pick and choose between that and something that's really important, like a very well-known doctor, or many doctors in this case, who are speaking out now saying that things are different than the media are presenting and the government is reacting to. And these are doctors with a lot of background, and many of them, and they're being censored. So that makes me really, really, really suspicious. So we'll see how that all unfolds as well. But that's my observations. It's not something that directs how I work my, in this case, my door project, the healing aspect. I just step right out of all of that stuff. I observe. I like to educate myself. I like to research many different sources of information for many reasons. I like to get a wide range and then just sit with everything and just let everything digest and mull over stuff and let my heart kind of put everything into perspective over time. I don't like to just take any kind of media or any kind of information face value. I let things germinate for ages and ages. Sometimes I come up with feelings and answers of things that I've had germinating and sitting for a lifetime. And then something just clicks and I go, oh my gosh. So that's how I work. I don't know if it's an artist thing or if it's just a me thing. But I try not to judge. I try not to just leap to any assumptions or conclusions. And I also find there are sometimes patterns that draw me in. I'm just thinking of what an example of that, but like draw me into that idea of leaving no stone unturned, that kind of thing, of just going, oh, okay, well, that looks suspicious, or that's kind of, I need to go and look into that. There are a lot of things that go on and where I just think, that makes me skeptical, or that makes me wonder, but I don't jump to a conclusion. I just go in and start looking. So anyways, enough of my babbling on. It's 36 minutes now, so we're going to say goodbye. Oh, I got some really cool patterns in my green tea. Wow. I should do a whole episode on just the patterns that form in green tea when you leave it for a little bit. But anyways, everybody, have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and we'll be talking to you soon and hopefully seeing you soon. I'm really, really hoping that things are going to shift soon. And I know I've been getting a lot of people asking me about when can they come down and get tattooed, or even just come down to visit, walk our trails. And I've been telling everybody it's not happening right now for obvious reasons. And I'm, respecting those rules and finding out over time. I'm waiting, just like you guys are, to find out when I can start practicing again, and also if there's going to be a different kind of protocol for tattooing. Like many things, I'm sure even estheticians and stuff, they'll all be affected, or dental hygienists. So we'll all find out about that as time goes on. But for now, stay tuned, and I'll let you know when I'm back into practice. I don't think I'm going to be coming down to Toronto for a while when it does kick in and we're all back to work. So people, if you are, waiting for that time when you're able to come in for a tattoo, at least for the first while, it's going to be up here until I can really think about it. My main reason for coming out here was to get into the wilderness and clean air and clean water and be able to give people a deeper experience added to their tattoo, a certain deepening of that healing experience. And I really do stress that how important that is. And the people that do come up here, they're blown away and they're like, now I get it. I know why it's so important to come up here. I'm glad I did. So just a thought, and that's how I'm going to end things. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, folks.